This episode of the Bloom video series brings us to Krakow in Poland. In the Bloom project we are showing examples of so-called bioeconomy. Did you know that there is plastic made by bacteria? But how? Everyone knows conventional plastic. In our daily life it is everywhere. But what would a world be without plastic? The fossil-based plastic production process is quite linear. We pump oil out of the earth, make a product from it, and after using it, it will be thrown away. If disposed of properly, it may be recycled, but for a large part it will be burned. And a lot of plastic that is not disposed of properly ends up in the environment. Wouldn't it be so much nicer if we could use plastic which can be integrated into nature's cycles? Actually, this is something that researchers all over the world are working on. Here in Krakow, at the Jerzy Haber Institute of Catalysis and Surface Chemistry of Polish Academy of Science, a so-called bioplastic is being made with the help of bacteria. Bacteria that can make plastic? I did not know that either. And here we are. Okay, so I'm in the front of the institute and I'm going to learn shortly about the bioplastics and how they are made out of bacteria. So Dr. Maciej Guzik is going to tell me everything about this process. But first, we just need to jump into the slab uniform. And now we are ready. Wow, that looks amazing.
So I'll show you now how we start. So we start with a single bacterium.
In the fridge? So, everything starts from a plate. Actually, from that little dot, which is a bacterial colony. But what are bacteria anyway? Bacteria are microscopic living organisms, which means that you can't see them. No, not even under a magnifying glass. You need a microscope to find them. And they are real survivalists. They can be found everywhere. On your skin, on plants, in water, on mountain peaks, in the desert, and even in glaciers or in clouds. All bacteria are unicellular, and when they feel comfortable, they grow and reproduce very easily. Bacteria play quite an important role in transforming material. They provide energy, carbon, gas, oxygen, nutrients, and millions of other things that are very useful to us. Without bacteria, the earth would have no soil to grow plants.
You see those little dots?
Yes,
these are single colonies of bacteria.
But they're quite small. I imagine that you have more bacteria to produce bioplastic. Maciej really takes just one of those dots and then he feeds them. So this is how a little colony grows.
We feed bacteria with, let's say, sugar solution or glycerol or fatty acid.
Okay, so you shake them, they get more oxygen and they feel happy, yes?
Yes. Now I'll show you the process of fermentation.
These are the fermenter vessels, where the bacteria are grown and the main process takes place. Here, you can control different parameters to make them feel at home.
So this is a very controlled environment. You have a special vessel where you control a temperature, where you control feed of oxygen. And for the process that takes 30 hours, you can accumulate a lot of bacterial biomass. And inside of that biomass, there is bioplastic, those polyesters.
Okay, wait. But where does this bioplastic suddenly come from? Well, it has to do with stress. First, the bacteria had this warm and comfy home with sufficient carbon, nitrogen and phosphorus, their favorite environment. But as soon as the supply of phosphorus and nitrogen stops, they get stressed and generate granules of polymer inside their cells. When does this stressing moment start?
It is happening during the fermentation. They produce bioplastics as a stress-related response. So when the environment is harsh and they need to survive, it's like comparing them to bears. Bear prepares for winter and gathers fat. So bacteria gather fat inside, within the cells, as little pearls. So this is bioplastic.
We will leave the bacteria in their stressed out state for a while and come later back to see how the plastic is extracted. So now I'm going to meet Dr. Magdalena Wojnarowska from the University of Economics in Krakow, and I will talk with her about how bioeconomy addresses the challenges we have now as a society.
Kluczowym zaobserwowanym przeze mnie problemem w realizacji biogospodarki jest niska świadomość społeczeństwa samej koncepcji biogospodarki, czym ona jest. Ze względu właśnie na rosnącą ilość odpadów generowanych, współcześnie powinniśmy zmienić obecnie panujący model produkcji oparty na podejściu linearnym, to jest weź, wytwórz, wyrzuć, i przejść na gospodarkę o obiegu zamkniętym, dlatego że tylko wtedy będziemy w stanie realizować założenia biogospodarki, która jest spójna w koncepcji z ideą gospodarki o obiegu zamkniętym.
So, the bioeconomy is an economy that aims to make products in a more circular way, using renewable resources that can be recycled or that are biodegradable, so it will disintegrate and be absorbed back into nature. It is also very much about reducing our consumption of fossil fuels, which causes the problematic CO2 emissions linked to global warming.
Bioplastików potrzebujemy ze względu na rosnącą ilość odpadów, które nas otaczają. Aktualnie co minutę kupujemy 1 milion butelek wytwarzanych z tworzyw sztucznych. Jedynie 9% z nich jest recyklingowane, 12% spalane, natomiast reszta zalega w formie odpadów, między innymi na Pacyfiku, tworząc wyspę wielkości Francji.
What? So that's why researchers like Maciej look for other ways to make plastic. Coming back to our stressed out bacteria. They are now full of pearls of polymers and will be dried and mixed with acetone. And then the resulting cocktail will be filtered. So you just told me that this is going to be the last part of the process. We are going to see the plastic, aren't we?
The next step that I will show you now is how the polymer crushes out from the solution.
That's the plastic, isn't it?
Yes.
What can be manufactured from this kind of material, these biopolymers?
The possibilities are actually endless because this material has two great features. First of all, it's biodegradable. It means that anything made of it, let's say one-time use cutlery or plastic bottle, can be thrown into a compost, and this will disintegrate within 3 months. So the other feature is biocompatibility. It means that material produced from those polyesters, bioplastics, is completely harmless to humans. So we can produce implants, medical devices that can come into contact with our skin, our body, or body fluids, and our organisms, they will recognize these materials as our own.
Okay, so this material is also biocompatible, which is amazing because it can be used for medical purposes. But we are here in a relatively small lab. Is it efficient to produce bioplastic in that way? Can it replace current plastic?
Once we have established processes that can efficiently use resources locally, then I think the price will be no longer an issue. And these polymers, they can offer so many different properties, so we can exchange nearly everything with help of polymer scientists. Definitely it's doable.
So I personally feel much calmer now, knowing that researchers are already looking for solutions for the problem we have with plastics. However, bioeconomy is not only about looking for new technologies, new solutions, new research, but also about changing our mindset. So I think this will be one of the biggest challenges for society in these times. For each one to realize and to think about how we can make a circular bioeconomy the mainstream economy of the future.
Stay updated on how Bloom is engaging EU citizens and civil society in the bioeconomy and how you can get involved via the project website and social media www.bloom-bioeconomy.eu.